Thank you. I will try. Well, I guess I'm going to have to face the committee, and so I apologize to the public for having my back to you. But in order for the mic to pick me up, I'll face the committee. So we're delighted to be here with you all tonight. Wanted to start by highlighting a little bit about the process that's being used overall. And so the first thing that happened early in the spring is the commission appointed members of the Charter Review Committee. After they were appointed, we started meeting to analyze the current charter, discuss potential changes and revisions, and then vote on proposed changes. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. At the end of this process, the Charter Review Committee is going to propose, well, we don't know that they're going to propose a new or revised charter. That's up to them to decide yet. But they may propose a new or revised charter. And it will then be submitted to the local legislative delegation. It will also be shared with a number of other folks, including the county commission and mayor. The local legislative delegation then reviews the proposed charter and they present it to the General Assembly if they choose to move forward with it. At the end of the day, the local legislative delegation really controls that ultimate part of the process. So again, the Charter Review Committee is committed to taking a comprehensive review of the charter's provisions, looking at the structure of how the government is formed, the powers and duties of different people within that structure, and then analyzing the existing charter to see what areas need improvement, what areas have outdated provisions, and where are there potential conflicts, either within the charter itself or with provisions of, say, state or federal law, for example. The committee will be making recommendations for deleting, adding, or amending provisions to enhance the efficiency and operations of the government. And throughout this process, the committee is committed to soliciting input from residents through public hearings and public comment. Tonight is the first of the public hearings. There will be 2 other public hearings in a couple of weeks at different parts of the county to try and make it as accessible as possible. But also at every one of the committee's meeting, there has been a chance for public input as well. So as we think about this process, the full Charter Review Committee meets bi-weekly on Thursdays, so every other Thursday. Their subcommittees, Finance and Form of Government, meet following the main sessions. And to date, the committee has made some preliminary recommendations that will get bundled up together. But the first thing that they did is they removed what we call anticipatory language. So when the charter was first passed, there were provisions of it that said things like, if the charter is approved, then X, Y, or Z would happen. So, for example, if the charter were approved, the city of Augusta and the county of and Richmond County would be consolidated into one government. Well, that has now happened, and so we don't have to now say if anymore, and so those kinds of provisions can be removed, and they voted to remove those provisions that were identified. They also voted to remove sections that had language that was duplicative of state law. So there were sections that were literally verbatim out of state code. Now, there are a couple of problems with having that verbatim language in there. One is if the state law changes, the language in your charter now becomes out of date. And it's essentially, no matter what happens, state law is always going to trump the charter. So having it in there is somewhat problematic. And so the committee voted to remove that language out of the charter as well. The third thing that they voted on and approved is a recommendation to remove language from the charter that is better suited for Augusta's ordinances. And I'll talk in a little bit about the differences between ordinances and the charter, because there are provisions that make sense to be part of the general building blocks of the government, and that's what we might think about as the charter, versus the elements of managing the day-to-day operations of the government, which is more appropriate for the ordinances. So what is a charter? A charter is a foundational document. As we were coming up the elevator, I heard somebody refer to it as a constitution. That's kind of a synonym that you might use. Think about it as the Constitution for Augusta-Richmond County. It's the governing document that creates the structure and the legal existence and governance framework for Augusta-Richmond. It defines the form of government, whether that be a mayor-council, a council manager, or some other a pure commission form of government. Whatever that form of government is, it is articulated clearly in the charter document. Or I should say it should be articulated clearly in the charter document, because that's part of the challenge that the committee has faced, is that some of these things in the charter document have not been quite as crystal clear as it might be preferred. The charter grants and limits powers. It details the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the local government, including officials such as the mayor, members of the commission, as well as other select officers. It provides the legal basis for enacting ordinances and policies. So a city just can't, out of thin air, create ordinances, but the charter gives them the legal structure and authority to create those ordinances. And finally, a charter should ensure accountability. And that's one of the things that the committee has talked about a lot, is their desire for the charter to be structured in such a way as to be able to hold the government accountable for their actions. Now, the things that are generally outlined in a charter are things like incorporation. So this is the name of the jurisdiction, the boundaries, the basic powers and how to exercise those powers, the form of government. So that's the political framework. Think about that as the offices, things like a mayor, the commission, who's going to manage the day-to-day operations of the government, as well as the administrative affairs, organizational and general provisions, such as the city administrator or manager, attorneys and clerk, and general personnel administration. It can highlight things such as salaries, but we recommend not doing that, because salaries are, again, one of those things that you want to have change over time. Now, you want to obviously hold those in check, but if you freeze it in place, it makes it hard to then have some kinds of changes. Other things that are included in the charter include an articulation of the role of the municipal court, how elections and the removal of officer and vacancies work, finances such as taxes and various fees, the borrowing roles of the county, basic accounting, budgeting, and procurement, and property management frameworks. Again, and I'll mention this again, so there's a difference in saying, here's the general accounting structure that we're going to use, versus saying debits go on the left and credits go on the right, and here's how you fill out a form. That kind of element is not going to be in the charter. It's that bigger picture. And then you have general provisions. So these are articles that highlight items that don't fit appropriately in any other article of the charter, but still need to be in there, but they aren't neatly fitting in one of the other pieces. Now, things that aren't in a charter, these are things that we normally find in ordinances. And we say topics traditionally excluded because there are some charters that include some of these things. Now, we find those charters to be less helpful. And so topics that we encourage people to exclude from the charter are things like zoning and land use. Those are better handled as ordinances because they may change over time as property uses and expectations change. Public safety and health, business regulations, business licenses, fees, et cetera. Environmental protection, traffic and parking rules, expectations around general public conduct, and then administrative procedures. All of those things are better suited for ordinances rather than as part of that governing document. And again, think about it as you would the Constitution of the United States. It lays out who the president is, what they need to do to be eligible, for example. but it doesn't tell what the day-to-day schedule of a president would be. Just gives that broad framework for them to work within. Now, some people ask, why update a charter? There are a number of reasons. In the case of Augusta, it's been nearly 30 years since the charter was enacted. And so we recommend on a regular basis, local governments review their charters. And part of the reason is that you may need to update previously accepted terms that reflect contemporary language. For example, we were working with a local government not too long ago that had language dating back to the literally late 1800s, early 1900s that referenced things like chain gangs. And so you want to modernize that for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which is it's a less than useful term in today's climate. You also want to update the charter to mitigate risk. You minimize the legal exposure by ensuring that the charter complies with state law so that the local government isn't going to be exposed to it not complying with elements of the law. Compliance to ensure that the charter comports with state and federal standards. Safeguards protect against improperly enacted charter amendments. So one of the things that the charter should have in it is how the charter gets changed and how often it gets reviewed, for example. And so that's designed so that when the charter is changed, it's changed in a process that's methodical and thoughtful rather than haphazardly. The charter should be accessible. The charter document that the committee received, if I recall, is about 180 pages. We've probably pulled out at least 120, I would guess, in the reviews that have happened so far. And so part of that suggests that those extra 120 pages, roughly, were things that could be confusing and make it less accessible to understanding what the basic form and structure of Augusta's government is. And so one of the things that we want is by having a more streamlined charter document, it makes it easier for people to be able to actually read it, understand it, and then hold the government accountable to make sure they're living up to the expectations of that charter document. And the other thing that we want is, as we update the charter, is there may be emerging local challenges that need to be addressed. Now, those could range from just the dynamics of a community have changed. It could be that you've seen instances where the community wasn't able to respond in the way that might be preferable because of the institutional structures made it difficult. And by changing and updating the charter, it allows you to deal with some of those. Now, there are a whole host of forms of government. And when we say forms of government, this is the basic structure of who holds the executive power, who holds the legislative power, who holds the judicial power in a government. As you look across the state, what I want you to notice are two things from this chart. One is that it's really small and hard to read. But you'll notice that most of the counties have some sort of a hash mark in them. That means that they either have an administrator or a manager that is doing a significant portion of the day-to-day operations of the local government. But the other thing that I want you to highlight is the darker blue are what we call consolidated governments. So those are governments like Augusta Richmond that have merged the city and the county. Now, most of those you'll recognize, places like Columbus, Muskogee, Athens, Clarke County, Augusta Richmond, obviously, and Macon-Bibb you all recognize, but some of the others you may be less familiar with. Cosetta at Chattahoochee, Georgetown, Quitman, Webster County, Eccles County. And the reason you're probably less familiar with those are counties with less than 10,000 people. And so when we look and compare counties, we are generally encouraging the committee to focus on those larger governments, the Columbus, Athens, Augusta, and Macon-Bibb, because those have populations that are substantial and are dealing with similar kinds of issues as would Augusta Richmond. Now, each of those governments across all 159 counties are structured in different ways. Some of them are structured in this way. Now, you'll notice in each of these, we have voters up at the top of the chart. Voters choose their elected officials. And in some counties, what happens is they vote for and I'm just going to focus, so no offense to the sheriff's office, but I'm not going to focus on them the whole time. I appreciate them. They play an incredibly important role. But I'm going to focus just on the mayor and commission in these conversations. Now, you'll notice that in this chart, the mayor appoints and department heads and administrator, city clerk, auditor, and attorney, but the commission approves those. And so it's kind of headed up by the mayor, but it still has commission approval in this model. There are other models. Now, we use the term strong mayor. It is a descriptor of that model where the mayor has kind of leading responsibility. Some people might simply prefer to use the term mayors with strong powers or significant powers or something along those lines. But in that form of government, the one that's pictured here, the mayor holds the primary executive authority. Now, the mayor often delegates a significant portion of that to an administrator, recognizing that the administrator may have professional expertise that the mayor may not have, and the mayor still holds the executive responsibility ultimately. The mayor appoints department heads and officials in this model, develops and submits the budget, and oversees the daily operations of the government, as well as possesses veto power. Now, one of the other things that I want you to notice is that these can all get a little bit messy, in part because the charter can make choices that kind of blend some of these together. And so, for example, in Macon, here in Augusta, you'll note that recently the voters approved the mayor having a vote on the commission, not just being able to exercise veto authority. And so that is a little more messy than kind of the very simple kind of the mayor has a veto, kind of like the president model. An alternative to this is where the mayor has less kind of significant influence on their own, and this might be a mayor commission with an administrator. It's sometimes called a weak mayor or a mayor with less power and authority. And here, the mayor and commission together appoint the department heads, the administrator, the city clerk, the auditor, et cetera. The big difference here is in the previous one, the mayor can essentially kind of lead the hiring and firing authority, where in this model, the mayor together with the commission does it. And so the mayor has kind of less singular responsibility in articulating those positions. They have no independent executive authority. They work as essentially part of the legislative branch, the mayor does in this model. They typically don't have a veto authority. They're subordinate to the city council, essentially or county commission in our case. And they function under the direction and the decisions of the governing body as a whole. They primarily have ceremonial responsibilities. Think of them sitting on a committee or a commission representing the government or something like that, ribbon cuttings, et cetera, but that they aren't in a primarily policy influencing role, as you might have in a case where a mayor has much stronger roles and responsibilities. Another form that we see, and we'll get to the distinction between the terms manager and administrator momentarily, but an alternative is what we call commission manager in county parlance. Voters elect the mayor and commission, or they may elect just a commission without a mayor. But they then appoint a manager. That manager is essentially the chief executive, and they oversee the day-to-day operations of the government. They are the ones that would propose the budget. They're the one who hires and fires department heads, et cetera. The county commission and the mayor and commission in this case are giving policy guidance, but the day-to-day operation it shifts over to the manager's responsibility. Now, you'll notice that we've used the term administrator and manager. In some ways, it seems like those ought to be pretty synonymous. And in some ways, you're right, because they get used interchangeably by people. I was at a meeting several years ago where they were, a group was saying, we want a really strong manager like they have in the city of Sandy. Well, the interesting thing was the city of Sandy actually had an administrator, not a manager, but they had granted additional responsibility to that administrator, so they appeared to be much more manager-like. But in its kind of pure distinction, managers have the ability to hire and fire people, operate the budget. But the key issue is that they're appointed by and report to the commission or governing authority as a whole, as opposed to reporting directly to the mayor, for example. They have broad authority over the operations. They typically have greater autonomy than does an administrator. And they typically are trained professionals with graduate degrees in public administration, for example. Could be other, but there's often an expectation, and it's in many times actually articulated in the charter, the expectation for professional competence demonstrated by advanced training. Administrators, on the other hand, are often appointed by and report to, in some cases, the mayor exclusively, in other cases, the mayor and commission. And so you can already see where it gets to be a little blurry. But the difference is that administrator is not given the same ability to hire and fire department heads. They may kind of give recommendations and guidance, but at the end of the day, it's the commission or the mayor, depending on how it's structured, that has that ultimate hire and firing authority. They do focus on administrative coordination, but not the same kind of meticulous detail to operations that you might see a manager. They have limited independent authority. Their actions often require commission approval, so for things like disciplining employees. This is a similar model that exists here in Augusta. The administrator can't act on her own to discipline employees. You may make a recommendation to the commission, but ultimately it's the commission that makes that decision. Now, in both of these models, you can have managers and administrators that are supportive of both rural and urban service delivery. And so in a county like Augusta-Richmond County, where you have different kinds of service expectations across the county, both of these models can work. And so it's not as if you can only do one in this kind of environment. That's the important thing that the committee needs to choose, is how do they want that day-to-day operation of the committee or of the county to run? Do you want it done by essentially directed by the mayor? Do you want it overseen by the commission? Do you want it overseen by a trained professional that has a lot of autonomy? Do you want it done by and I'm going to assume that an administrator would be a professional as well, although they don't have to be. They can be more political appointees, for example, with less professional experience. But who do you want operating and managing those day-to-day affairs? That's one of the important questions for the committee, and that's one of the things that they would like input from the public, is to see kind of where your preference is on who heads up the day-to-day operations of the government. There are some other forms. The pure commission form would not have a mayor. We don't see this very often in large governments. For example, we see it much more commonly in rural governments. Commissions can vary in size from, say, one person, which is very rare, and it is generally reserved for the smallest of governments. You can imagine how difficult that would be in a place like Augusta. But they're more common to have 3 to 5 members. But counties and commissions can have very large sizes. So that gives you kind of a broad overview of some of the different choices that are available to the committee. And they're really looking for your input as a public in kind of what are your preferences? What do you really want as you think about who's going to lead and guide the Augusta-Richmond County government as you move into the future, and who's going to help make the important decisions of where that future takes you. So with that, I want to highlight two things. One, the CRC, the Charter Review Committee, has a website, augusta.gov, augustaga.gov/CRC, and up there we're putting the documents that the committee receives. We're making every effort to make sure that if the committee receives the document, it goes up on that website. If there's one that we have missed, we apologize and let us know, and we'll make every effort to get it up there as timely as we can. But the other thing is that the committee has put out a survey. Some of you have seen it and already filled it out. As of this morning, we had over 800 responses. And so that's very useful, and we appreciate it. If you haven't filled it out, the web address is up above. That's all together. There are no breaks. You don't have to put a return between the U in Augusta and the S. So that's just, so if we encourage you to share that and have that widely distributed, and we'll leave that up for people to reference. So that concludes our presentation, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Facer. At this point, we have brought a lectern so that we're not walking all the way over. We realize we have some people, walking is not an easy thing, so we've tried to make it easy. There are a couple ground rules. If you'd like to speak, if you want to just line up here. We are going to request that you limit your time to 3 minutes to set up a question, to ask the question, and then return to your seat as we try to come up with an answer for it. We're going to be very honest about this. If we don't have the answer immediately, we need to know how to reach you so that we can communicate the answer when we do get it. It may be that some things are better suited for the city commission to address, as in the ordinance example. And then there are other issues that will fall in place later. The very first decision a committee like this needs to make is, what is the foundation? The very first decision is form of government. From where we're sitting, that is going to take a lot of time to answer that question, because you can imagine there are many permutations. I think there's general consensus that we need to have safeguards to make sure that our fiduciary responsibilities are met, that money is going where it's supposed to be going, that employees are accountable to who they work for. I'm not going to presuppose what I'm going to hear tonight. I think it's better for us to hear from all of you first. So if anybody has questions that would like to come up, I believe this podium has a live mic. Also, I want to thank Clerk of Court, Lena Bonner, for helping us prepare handouts. We have a list of all your commissioners up here, along with phone numbers and their email addresses. If you didn't get your question answered tonight, or you come up with one tomorrow or next week, by all means, just contact whoever you're most comfortable reaching out to. So with that, how can we get started with this? Mr. Todd.
Madam Chairman, wouldn't it be appropriate if as we signed up, that somebody read those names and that person is up?
Hang on, it was a yellow tablet. On the lectern, all right. Okay, so if you would like to ask a question, wonderful. If you would prefer to just make a comment as well, that would be lovely. It may be that we may have to clarify our understanding of what you just said. So, but as a rule, we're here to listen at this point. In order to take care of people's questions and make sure everybody gets heard, That's why we put these boxes in place so that everybody would have a chance. We had no idea how many to expect. So the first one on the list is Leland Dwight. Ms. Sheffy.
With respect to time, if people know they put their name on the list, they should probably go ahead and make their way, so that we're not calling and waiting on people.
Yes, that's correct. And not everybody that signed this is expecting to speak either, from what I gather. All right, so we have Leland Dwight, Vicki Banks, Deanna Collins, Randy Sasser, and Moses Todd.
I guess everybody else is shy, so I'll start it off. First, Madam Chairman and members of the committee, at a recess, I had some comments earlier today, and I want to apologize for probably asserting my voice. I understand that you had a long day, a lot of work to do, but my name is Moses Todd. I live at 2747 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia. The most important, issue for me is was one, that you be sworn in, and two, that the reason for that swearing in is that in that oath, you agree to go by the Georgia State Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and general law. And earlier today, I sat and observed a vote on whether you was going to do recommended changes by a simple majority or that you were going to use a supermajority. And I want you to understand that any rule that you make in your bylaws or wherever else, that if it violates the Georgia State Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, or general law, then it's null and voided. So it was really ridiculous that you would take the time that you debated it, then vote on it, and you voted to stick with the issue of, using a simple majority to make recommended changes to the charter. The charter itself calls for a supermajority for any changes that to be made. There's been numerous changes made in this charter over the years, including the one that was made last year by the voters to give the mayor a vote. That's an amendment to the charter or a change. So when we say that we haven't had a change in 30 years, we've been disingenuous. The other point that I'd like to make is that observing the committee, it seems that some think that the committee is a shadow government for the commission, and I would like for you to focus more on whether there's a need to revise or amend the charter or a need for charter changes. I would hope that the charter changes that you've already made as far as the verbiage go was done by a supermajority. Those are my comments. Also on the 1987 ruling by federal court on the at-large voting, I would hope that you would adhere to that ruling until it's overruled by a higher court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Okay, the next five were Marion Williams, Janice Parsons, Annabelle Ibarra, Sheila Nelson, and Robert Gentry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Marion Williams. I live at 1941 Chrysler Drive, Augusta, Georgia 30906. I got several questions, and really my first question probably for the Carl Vinson Institute. As my tenure as a commissioner, I spent over 16 years on the commission, and I took many, many classes from the Carl Vinson along with the Georgia Municipal Association as well to train us on what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing in Augusta, Richmond County. We have paid, I don't know the amount, to be a part of that establishment for many, many years. They hold conference at different places, and we had different classes, and all of this stuff that I'm hearing now is totally different. I really got confused when the speaker did a good job explaining about whether or not the mayor had veto power, when he even mentioned veto power. I never heard that in Augusta before until then, and that kind of threw everybody off, I'm sure, because we don't understand, I guess, the government. The other thing is the branches of government takes care of self. I can't see how the local government is trying to tell the state government about changing the charter. They're the one that put the charter together. It came from the state government. But we're here saying that we need to take and change the charter and send it to them. I heard you, Madam Chairman, say to the public at the media one evening we had a meeting, if the people were dissatisfied, they need to come down. Well, if there was a problem, you wouldn't have to ask them to come down. They would already be down here if there was a problem. In my tenure as a commissioner for 16 years, I served 8 years as the District 2 and another 8 years as Super District. Nobody have ever said to me, that charter's not working. They said the roads ain't fixed. They said the grass ain't cut. They said y'all disagreeing downtown, but that's politics. On your board, I see the same thing on your board you're doing now that we did when I was in office as commissioner, because I had an idea, somebody had a different idea, so we debated, we talked about it. And that's why the voters vote for people to debate and talk about their issues that they need. Now, if you're just gonna have a blanket, I'm sorry, 1 minute. Okay, but this is supposed to be a public hearing, and a public hearing, and I'm used to this time limit, Madam Chairman, but when you do a public hearing, you have people come down in the storm and the rain and everything else, and to my 3 minutes, that's really not fair to us. I know, but you're not commissioner. That's the other part. You've been sworn in, and if you break those oaths that you've been sworn in, what penalties are there? Will you be fined in some way? Will you serve time in some way? The commission took an oath because they're working for the people of Augusta. I still don't have my answers, and I can't explain, because when you're talking about an issue this big and this important, it really needs time to discuss these issues. Now, the speaker had almost 30 minutes to come back with a lot of stuff that we already should have read or should have known, but we get 3 minutes. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anybody else to follow Mr. Williams? Reverend Williams. All right, we've got Crystal Ware, Trish Bryant, Reverend Anthony Booker, Lauren Dallas, and then Reverend Johnny Hampton.
Madam Chair, and to the committee, Anthony Booker, 328 Telfair Street, local pastor and leader of the Baptist Ministers Conference of Augusta, 67 pastors. I'm gonna piggyback my colleague, Reverend Williams, from the point I've served as our conference president for the last 8 years, been in the conference for the last 20, 25 years, and I've had several mayors come to our session to inquire about more power. One of them had the audacity to say that pastors don't take instructions from anyone. And I would believe that each of you, and I pray that you do, attend church somewhere. And I want you to think about this. Would you give your preacher ultimate power in your churches? But yet I hear across the city of Augusta, we want to give the mayor more power. The reason, I know you already know this because I said in a meeting and someone came in and shared it with you, the reason we have the government we have, and you know it, is because when the mayor did have the power that many of you are suggesting to give the current mayor and those behind him, the city ended up broke. And we had to merge, the county had to bail the city out. I don't like to take chances, and I think there need to be guardrails. I heard the chair say guardrails on financials and all those, but guardrails on power as well with leadership. If everything sits in one chair, there's no guardrails. I think the current session, the setting we have with commission and current mayor, I think it can work, but the problem is not that it don't work because there's no communication. If the current mayor or any other mayor, use what they do have at their disposal, and that's called the bullet pulpit, which I use as a person that don't have a vote in my church. Amen. I know how to use the pulpit. I know how to talk with my membership to get what I need to get done. It's the same thing with anybody in a place of leadership. So I want you, I'm asking and begging you to give what I have heard out beyond this room, the mayor, more power or veto power. What's needed is for the current government that we do have, learn how to communicate. I heard my colleagues say the same thing that happens on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and I witnessed it myself here on 10 o'clock in the mornings, is happening right here among yourselves. So if you all are having the issue that the 2 o'clock session have on Tuesdays, the problem is not somebody need more power, it just need to be able to communicate a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Booker. Can I piggyback just a second on something you had just said, just to add to it? I have voted to give our pastor great powers, but I would also say this to neighbors, less as a member of this committee. It is rare, you either have a visionary or you have a detail-oriented person. It is rare to have that in the same human being. I can't think of somebody in my lifespan that possessed both talents. You either have somebody who is going to be a builder and has the vision to do so, or you have somebody that's more akin to a bean counter kind of thing. What we are, as a group, we don't disagree with you on the guardrail concept, and it should apply to power too. It should be balanced, and it should be an equal opportunity tool. So nobody disputes that either, as far as I'm aware. I think we're all pretty much in agreement with that. The issue that is so blessed difficult is to figure out what is the right mix for Augusta, Georgia. You referred to the last mayor of the city. Out of the 12 years he was mayor, he did not have an administrator for 5 years. That contributed to the problem. That was not a detail-oriented human being. That was somebody that had big ideas and worked like a crazy man to make them happen. So, and that could happen again. I get this question 13 times a day, as I'm sure my fellow committee members do too. You know, what happens if we get the wrong mayor in? So these are part of the requirements that we have to build into the cake. And I appreciate your comments because you are spot on a lot of them. Did you want to speak? Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name is Lauren Dallas, and I live at 1003 Meg Street. I serve as the executive director of Augusta Tomorrow, an outside agency to the city that serves to revitalize downtown through private development and in partnership with the city. One program you may have heard of, if you're not familiar with Augusta Tomorrow, is the ACE program. And it is a supplemental service that provides cleaning to downtown, litter pickup, weed eating, just kind of making it clean and safe. One thing that we have noticed that I think it's very important for all of you to know is that it is very difficult to get some of these things done. Working with certain departments, there is little accountability being held with certain department heads. Not all, not one in particular, but I think it goes to show that our form of government right now isn't as functional as it could be. It doesn't seem like there's really anyone in charge. And I feel that if there was someone fully in charge, that it might be more beneficial to the citizens of Augusta to get some things done. Augusta Tomorrow also is the keeper of the master plan, which we are about to reveal the 2035 vision here in a few weeks, which I'm very excited to show all of you. And the thing that scares me is, how do we get it done? There's a lot that we can do together, but as you have all been well aware of, you got to count to 6. Is 6 really the right magic number? So I thank all of you for serving on this committee. I know that it is a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of listening, and I appreciate you doing it. I don't really have a question, but I just wanted you to know that Augusta Tomorrow is here to help the committee in any way we possibly can, because while we are not a city entity, we work very well hand in hand. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dallas. We appreciate that because I think there are many, many things that we all need to be working on. One of our members wisely brought up several meetings ago the need to, in these deliberations, take into account the fact that we have watched so many cities around us buzz right past us, smaller cities, bigger cities. Another one of our, and her point was that we need to be creating conditions where business can be conducted expeditiously. We have got to become more nimble. We cannot sit and argue about it for 3 months. They'll have 13 other offers. Anybody that's been, often I hear about how wonderful Greenville, South Carolina is, and it is. It's a wonderful place. What people fail to understand is that they had a benefactor that has put $150 million of her own money into that downtown area, revitalized the river, left an endowment for its upkeep, and we would love that. I mean, that would just jumpstart over a lot of things. We do have a wonderful benefactor in that little golf club on Washington Road who does a fair amount for our community, and certainly we are grateful for that as well. But one of the bigger challenges is just that. What is the right number of commissioners? Do we give the mayor veto power instead of the vote we voted for last year? He is not expressing an opinion on that at all. Does not really want the veto power. He would prefer that. We're not sure we can accommodate that, but in any case, lots of tough questions. Any of my fellow commissioners would like to speak up, I certainly can add to that. Gentlemen, Ms. Sir, did you want to come speak? Please.
Yes, my name is Trayvon Beal Bay, R Reserve. I live at 2626 Carrington Drive in Helsingborg, Georgia. I wanted to know about the sister city relationships between Augusta, Georgia and Biarritz, France, and who's over that.
So Ms. Bonner may have to help me out with that. I think the local person that tried to invite members from his home city was Dr. Edouard Servy, who was from Biarritz, France, and he invited a contingent of people. We had a group that traveled at their own expense there, and then they sent a group back over this way. Am I remembering that right, Lena? It's dormant, and it has been for a long time, hasn't it? We had a sister city agreement with Takaratsuka, Japan. We had a sister city agreement with, what's the name of that town? Godalming, England. Godalming, England. And the mayor of Godalming came and spoke at Charles Devaney's funeral because they were grateful for the people that they brought here, and he brought people this way too. So they were wonderful relationships. That practice, I believe, pretty much died with him, and they are no longer active. Does that help answer the question?
Because I did a little research and it showed that this consolidation interrupting international nation-to-nation relationships, because they had stated Augusta, Georgia, and Biarritz, France. They stating that Georgia is recognized as a nation. Yeah.
Wow,
France as a
I had
nation.
not heard that.
So in turn, it's a denationalization process. They stripping us of our nationality as being Georgians.
Thank you, hon. Does anybody on our committee have anything they would like to offer?
If we could just ask the public, because I think we had started speaking and I'm not sure that everybody saw the notepad up on the podium. So there were other people that came in. I don't know if there's anybody else who wanted to speak or ask a question.
Mr. Zahn, you ready? Belly up, friend.
Good evening. Ben Hassan, 3529 Monte Carlo Drive. A lot of good information, Madam Chair. I'm not sure this is what happened, but my suspicion is when Attorney Plunkett got up and spoke to you last, I think he said this was just going to be an information session and that you all were not going to engage necessarily, just listen to the commentary or the questions and not necessarily respond to them. And I think the last two from Pastor Booker and somebody else made comments. And from that, it almost like you begin to undercut what they had said instead of just leaving it out there and putting another position on it and things. So I think in that regard, those are the kinds of things I hear quite often and listen to the meeting as well as being in the chamber. When you all conduct your meetings, you keep asking about guardrails, but you keep ignoring your own guardrails. And so those are the things that kind of concern me, such as what was made much earlier. It is no way possible that you should be talking about changing this form of government or making any kind of amendments to government without a supermajority. I mean, that's just a fact. Federal level, state level, as well as local government is in our consolidation bill or our charter. And so we're asking you all to do the same, because like Ms. Baker was saying, it calls deliberation. And if you're going to force feed the rest of your committee members, the community at the end of the day is going to feel the same way. And that's what has happened. Mayor Copenhagen said something that was very, very important when he was here a week or so ago or 2 weeks ago. He made mention about mayors being able to communicate. That's your biggest problem. Now, would I say nothing don't need to be changed in government? I wouldn't stand here and say that. But I will tell you, communication and being respectful of all of your colleagues, not just from the commission perspective, is very, very important. At the end of the day, we're going to continue to have a different form of government, but yet and still a divided government in terms of how the city actually operates and runs. Rod Pearson asked early on in this conversation, I'll close with this, Madam Chair, and I appreciate you letting me speak. He asked the young man from Carl Vinson Institute. He said, I've been here over 30 years, and Augusta seems to be, I'm paraphrasing this part of it, has not advanced at all. What do we do about that? The gentleman from Carl Vinson Institute, he struggled with it. I guess he said, hell, I don't know. But my point was, I came up and I said, and I still stand with that, follow the rules. Follow the rules of the commission that you say you're following, and follow the rules you set for yourself. Thank you much for your time.
So I believe it was Reverend Booker mentioned something about the need to communicate and so forth. I want to toss a thought out for all of you, and we are wide open for suggestions. I had a question today from a gentleman that wanted to know how we were publicizing this. We live in an era where we have more information than humankind has ever had, ever, and yet we don't know what's going on in our own town. Is it the fault of the people, or is it because communication channels are so fractured across so many platforms? I wish I had an answer. But we don't have a newspaper of record. We have an electronic newspaper. It's a good one, I think. We have other media newspapers that we are reaching out to through the city. We have radio station interviews planned. We have neighborhood association talks much like this to gather in more things. But if someone has a wiser idea about how to get the word out to the community, we are all ears, because this is a problem. People, some people sit in their lazy boys and watch the news at night. A lot of people used to get a newspaper in the morning and flip it open with their morning coffee and they'd read. Younger kids flip open their phones and look at social media. So you've got a totally different media environment than you had even 3 years ago. And the question is, how do we adequately communicate?
Madam Chairman, if I may, first I think in order to communicate, you got to have a budget. And when I say a budget, I mean your committee needs a budget. And then if I was running for a commission, I would buy ads. I would get all the free publicity that I could get, but you would buy ads on radio, urban radio and other radio, where folks are listening or tuned in. And you possibly would buy ads on Facebook or other media. That's the 21st century. Other than that, there's 11 of you, So you all should be ambassadors for the Charter Review Committee. And as you go about your daily, whether you're the president of a community alliance like Mr. Wimley, or Coach Bryant will have connections in the academia community, or Ms. Shepherd in the, in her area, you let folks know. But I can tell you the perception is that there's a man behind the curtain.
I think there are people pushing that perception too.
Yeah, that the agenda is already decided. So why should I bother? So I think you got to at least educate the public or convince them to trust you, and that's not the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello. My name is Krista Gentry. I live at 303 Broad Street. This is my first meeting like this ever. We've only lived here for about a year. We just moved here and bought our first ever house. So, yay. Yes. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I apologize if this question was already answered during the presentation. I was taking notes as fast as I could and I may have missed it. What is the current government of Augusta right now? Like, is it just the straight commission? Is it a combination?
Can we refer that to Dr. Facer to answer excruciatingly correctly for us?
Yeah, it's a mayor commission with an administrator. But it's a little bit of a hybrid with the way the mayor and commission work together.
Okay.
So when just to give you an example of why this is problematic, we had, as a committee, invited the current administrator to come speak to us about her job. We put her in a very uncomfortable position because she was not free to answer without ramifications. Because when the question was put to her, who do you report to? The answer was the mayor and the commission. And one of our committee members said, you report to 11 people? And that, in fact, is the answer. So this is like having Thanksgiving dinner without a chief chef, and they're all running around a tight space. The next question involved who has hiring and firing authority. Can't really get an answer to that either. So if you could see a copy of the current organizational chart, it would be very telling.
Is there a way for that to be accessible for people to see, or is it already out there?
It should be on our website.
Okay. Also, I think that, at least for me, I'm not super dialed into like what all of the issues are for you guys on the committee. And so as a voter, for somebody that wants to try to make an educated decision about how to give advice on something like this, I think it would be helpful for the general public to have like some kind of a document or something that is public facing where everybody on the committee can outline what the issues that they're having currently are, so that we can look at that information and then take that in with the information that was just presented tonight to try and make sense of it, because it's not easy for people just that are out and about living their lives every day.
Not easy for us studying it either.
So I think that would help to make government feel more accessible to people, is if there's a way for them to have kind of like more information about what the issues are that are because of the current setup that you guys have. Also,
So can I drill a little deeper on this? How would you go about doing that? What medium would you utilize? How would you get that to people where we'd get to 200,000
Well,
cradle to grave kind of thing.
I mean, is it something that can be posted on the website or something that could be emailed to people? Or I imagine there are going to be future meetings,
Oh, yes.
public meetings. So, I mean, any of those probably would be good.
What is posted on the website describes the daunting task we have been assigned. And it talks about 3 major forms of government. And then you add in almost an unlimited number of permutations. They all have consequences. There's yin and yang. And so we are all as a committee trying to remain above the fracas so that we can take the overall in, and then as more information becomes available, and we have enough feedback. Thank you. I'm sorry.
My last question is, are these slides going to be available for people to access after this meeting?
Yes, I'm going to post those to the website too, so that address will lead you straight there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your involvement. Okay. All right, so who's first here? Miss Angela, Miss Backles.
I just wanted to follow up. I can't remember which gentleman it was that had said it, but she had asked what our current form of government is, and that's a factual question versus opinion. And you did kind of lead in with opinion afterwards, implying how Miss Allen was feeling, and it can give a negative perception about the current form. So I would just caution all of us in answering in that manner. Also, just wanted to check, can anybody ask additional questions if they already have, since we do still have some time left?
We do. This gentleman has not spoken yet. Sheffy, Ms. Robinson wanted to speak as well.
Yes, I want to further clarify our current form of government. By the actual term, it is Mayor Commission Administrator, but we do have a couple of little unorthodox things that we do here in Augusta that is not typically seen. The mayor sits on the commission and actually votes like a commissioner. So we don't have a clear separation of the executive branch and the legislative branch currently. The mayor was given the vote at our last election. So I just wanted to give those little nuances so you better understand kind of where some of the issues may lie. And that's why Mr. Facer said earlier about some things can be messy, and that's the messy he's talking about. So just wanted to make sure you're informed.
So I believe this gentleman, if you'd like to speak, if you could just please come to this so we can all hear you, because it's not easy. Thank you.
Ma'am, my name is Robert Gentry. I also live at 303 Broad Street. I'm also the plumber, the electrician. I'm taking care of her. I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out where the charter is. So I went to Google, and there's like 15 different charters. I went to the augusta.gov website, and it's kind of hard to find it there. So I just wanted to make a recommendation that when I click on government, it shows the mayor, shows the commissioner. I think somewhere in those first 3 lines, we should have the current charter.
AugustaGA.gov/CRC for Charter Review Committee. And that's where I go. It's much easier. It has the entire charter, which is many, many pages.
I now know where to go.
Well, the good news is today we acted on removing several things, so it's getting much more manageable. You'll see a strike-through marked up copy probably tomorrow, not tonight, but tomorrow you will be able to.
Wonderful.
And then I believe we will be posting this presentation from Carl Vinson today on, so you can go back and review and chew and devise questions. And if anybody that would like, this paper has all 11 of our names, phone numbers, email addresses, and we're more than happy to speak.
Okay. I just wanted to make just one further point. If I go to augusta.gov, I'm able to see everything about the mayor. I'm able to see everything about the commissioner, but I should be able to read that in a charter in the same amount of clicks that I can see who the governor is.
I agree with you.
Yep, so going to .gov/CRC. It's the first time I've ever seen CRC.
I know
so
it.
I would have just gone right to the main page. I should be able to see our charter just within a couple clicks. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, in addition, at that same website, you, hi. In addition, at that same website, you'll be able to see all our past meetings, because they're all videotaped, so you can go back and look at those. It has all our minutes, so you can go back and review those at your leisure. Pretty much everything we've done that's on paper or not, you can find it right there at the website. It is a little different to get to it, but this is a brand new committee that had never been established before, so we're still working out the kinks. But if you go to that /CRC, you'll be able to find everything that you need, hopefully everything that you need or everything that you're looking for. If not, reach out to one of us and we'll see if we can at least maybe lead you in the right direction, because we'll probably learn something as well.
I agree with you. Those were easy to find. Just the main document was not. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McManus.
Ms. Wilhammy.
Yes, sir.
If I may, also for not only the charter, but ordinances are also available through MuniCode, and there's a link. So if you go to the law department, and there's a link to, I think it's called statutes, legal something, it's at the top. And you click on there and it have MuniCode, and what's nice about that is you can also search. So if you're looking for a particular issue, it'll come up as ordinances or parts of the charter. So that's also available for those who are looking for
Thank you.
stuff.
Because it is a little daunting. Ms. McManus.
McManus, 2642 Hillcrest Avenue. And I wanted to ask a graphic just like was posted up there, what it currently is, and then the separate explanation, and can that be all together in that presentation?
It could, but I'm thinking it might be wiser to see if we get that put on the front page of the AugustaGA.gov website, just with how do you get to the CRC or the Charter Review Committee, and then put that address. Is that?
Yes, but it would be great to have these kind of graphics that just break it down for laymen.
Yes.
There, and it would be great to understand that, the hiring,
Absolutely.
the firing, which you get a sense of that.
So we may have to do a little quick committee listing of the stickier problems for the public to be hashing about among themselves.
That chart.
You can't have 11 people.
The org chart, but
The
it would
org
tell
chart,
all.
yes.
It would say
Yes.
hiring.
Yes.
11 people. Then firing. Then responsibilities. That if you could break it down for us, that would
Very
be
good.
great.
All right, we'll work on that on the cadence.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Reverend Williams.
Can I speak?
Okay.
Matt Cradell, 420 Topgolf Way. Building on some of the commentary happening thus far, I find myself also coming in and starting to get a sense of maybe the issues at hand from previous commentary. And I think what would help me to understand as I've been looking at the website and seeing some resources on there is I get the sense that one of the primary issues that's going to be up for discussion is sort of the format of government. I would be curious to know, I'm a scientist by training, so I'm all about data, and what kind of things that the commission will be accessing. I'd love to know more about, if Mr. Facer is willing to speak on it, like how the Carl Vinson Institute will be involved and sort of what might the process look like even within the meetings that are going to happen about how those decisions are made, what is referenced, is it other committee, other charters, is there numbers that we can look at? I would be curious to know more about that.
I'm going to ask Dr. Facer to come to the podium to speak to that. Also, though, if you go to the CRC page, you're going to see the 4 consolidated governments charters from Georgia. You're going to see Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Chattanooga. These are cities that are growing, thriving, recruiting industry, populations are growing, and that is factored into the mix as well. Dr. Facer?
Sure. There are a number of things that we're doing to support the committee. For example, one of the things that we're preparing to present to the Form of Government Subcommittee, as well as the entire committee, is a review of over 40 research articles so that have been published in academic literature to give you some sense of people who have been trying to evaluate how effective these governments are. We also have been collecting data from organizations such as the National League of Cities, the International City County Managers Association, National Association of Counties, among others, on the form of governments that are used across the country to try and have a kind of broad picture. And we are updating some of that data, and we'll be presenting that soon to the committee as well. So we're trying to take a broad look at data, and we are trying to be responsive to the committee, but also as much as we can present information that will be useful and let the committee know that it's out there to see if they're interested in having that information presented to them.
And I would add, as far as process, how our committee interfaces with Carl Vinson. We had our 8th meeting, I think, this morning. And then we had a finance subcommittee, and then Monday, the 3 officers jump on a 1 o'clock cadence call, and with Carl Vinson, with the staff all together, it's a Zoom call. We review what needs further research. We start planning the agendas for the next meeting, and we put in requests for areas that we feel need to be fleshed out further from their perspective.
If you'll permit me one request and one question more. I'm a big old nerd, so if any of that data can be put on, I would love to look at any of that. Love me a systematic review. I know that the committee is having several hearings more. There's 2 more at different locations throughout the city. And then as far as the calendar reads online, it's meetings, meetings, meetings.
Yes.
One, I'm not clear if those are open or closed.
All of them are open.
They're all open, okay.
All open.
And then would it be the committee's intention to have hearings like this as they approach more the end of the process?
Well, we're hoping to have it as it goes along. There are certain flashpoints, this being one of them. It may be we will elect as a group to pull together and do a second public hearing before we make a decision. I can't say that because it's not my shot call, it's a committee call. I think later in the process, we committed to a minimum of 3. It depends on how much public feedback we get. Can I ask something of everybody that is here today? We just had a public service election, and it went to a runoff. And sadly, it's because people didn't even know what was going on. But less than 1% of our population actually came out to vote. Last time we had a big election, because I work in the elections department, the voting records are dismal, absolutely sad. To consider we fought 2 world wars and for the right to continue to call this our republic. I think it would be wonderful if those of you that are here tonight who obviously are civic-minded would take the time to speak with your peers, your family members, your church members, whoever you can find. You guys can talk to your church members about how important this is to A, take the time to dig into these types of issues, and B, show up and be counted. And your public officials, we are not public officials, we are a committee, but our public officials do benefit from hearing from their constituents. If you're not happy about something, there you go. Miss Robinson, I'm trying so hard.
It's okay, it's a long day. I'm a nerd too, so I'm big on data as a clinical sociologist. At the end of the survey, we do ask if people are interested to leave their email address for focus groups so that we can have more pointed conversations about different things, because we know, while you're in this body, you may not think of something, but on the way home, you are. So please fill out the survey. If you are interested in the focus group, put your email, and as soon as we're ready to do that, we will let you know when those groups will be held. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff Brantley, thank you for coming, and thank you for being part of this conversation. We're thrilled to have you.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Eugene Brantley, 400 Walton Way. You made a point about less than 1% showing up to vote on, the previous election. When people start to lose faith in the system and they feel like it don't work, then they're not going to show up to vote. But just thinking, if you look at the larger counties that we have here in the state of Georgia, Fulton County being one of them, DeKalb County. Fulton County has about 1 million people. DeKalb maybe 700,000. Clayton County close to 300,000. They have 6 or 7 commissioners on it. And I've been the sheriff for a few months now, but I've come to realize that the more people that I have to get to agree to get something done, it's probably not going to get done. But when I cut back on how many people we have in some of our staffing meetings, and we sit down and we make decisions and we move forward on how we're going to get things done, then there's more practicality and there's more things that get done. And if I could just show you or just some of the text messages I get, Sheriff, can you do this? Sheriff, can you do that? Do you mind stepping in and talking to this person? And everything they're asking has nothing to do with the duties of the sheriff, but it has something to do with all these other departments that are in this government that seem to not want to do their job. And so it's like we're not getting any accountability for some of the other departments within our organization. And so when I go over to North Augusta and I go to Brinkley's to eat and I walk out and I see the ballpark that we had here. And, once I realized they have 25,000 members of their community and we got 200 plus, if you're not ashamed that we can't, as one of the pastors say, just communicate to get things done, that ought to tell you something. Like we ought to be embarrassed and ashamed that we can't come to agreement to move this city forward in a positive way. So that's just my 2 cents. And, I'm not a nerd or a tech savvy guy, but I'm just somebody that's just looking and trying to be a positive light here in our city of Augusta. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Reverend Williams, I believe you've been waiting to speak to.
If I can just follow up with a question.
Yes.
Sheriff Brantley, I did just have a follow-up question for you. So one of the things that we've discussed very briefly, we haven't gone into it very much, is the number of commissioners. And because Augusta, Richmond County is so diverse and broken up into those 8 districts, it would be hard to say the downtown area and South Augusta should be represented by the same person, for instance. You know what I mean? Because they have very different needs. So I think that's why initially they came up with the 8 commissioners and then the 2 super districts. What would you recommend?
Well, I wouldn't recommend changing anything. Of course, I'm not going to get up here and make nobody mad at the sheriff. The need to communicate and be able to work together is what we need. I mean, the Bible speaks and it says plans fail from lack of counsel. So we need counsel, but we got to make sure we're here. We got to make sure we show up. We got to make sure that counsel ain't walking out when it's time to vote and things like that. So, the things that we have going on and in place can work, but you got to have people that's willing to work together to get to where we're trying to go.
So just to clarify, when you had first talked, you weren't talking about lowering the number of commissioners, but really just that they needed to communicate and follow leadership and greater good, ultimately.
Right,
okay,
absolutely.
Got you. Thank you.
Reverend Williams.
but it's still working. Madam Clerk, I'm very excited about what we're talking about, what we're doing. But let me say a couple of things. First of all, the Carl Vincent mentioned about the National League of Cities, and even here in Georgia, there are a lot of cities that got 20 and 25 different commissioners. People have to be represented. Now, I don't know about the sheriff. I never been in his jail or around his jail, so I can't talk much about what goes on down there. But what I can talk about is that people who are suffering, who don't get their voices heard, when you run for office, and I did that, and I got criticized for doing that, and I stayed to every meeting. Out of 16 years, I missed 2 meetings in 16 years because I was willing to fight for the people for what I thought was right. And I say again that we need to understand how important it is for us to come together. The other thing I wanted to mention was that communication. When you get to be elected, your whole demeanor change. You're the only person in town because people will come to you and blow your head up telling you what a great commissioner you are and how good you are, and they patting you on the back, and you ain't like them. You better than that. We're going to help you. You're going to get your situation solved. Then the next man get the same thing. Then we fighting among each other. That's the pressure it becomes to you when you become a commissioner. Now, I tried the mayor's job, but the mayor and the commission need to look at the criteria of the job description as running for office for what you got to do. If you don't want to work, don't get on a lawnmower because you're going to get some grass on you. If you want to work, you got to get in the fight and stay in the fight. I said this the last time I was here, Coach, being a commissioner like making sausages. You got to beat them up, you got to mash them, you got to squeeze them, but they sure taste good on Saturday morning when you're having breakfast. But that's what it takes if you're going to get your fair share. So there is no secret number. I think the government is working fine. I think a lot of things could be changed, sure. But if the legislative branch hadn't sent down nothing for us, why are we sending stuff up to them? That's confusing to me. But I just want to clarify that there's a lot of commissions got even 20 and 25 on their board, and they get a lot of things done. If you look at what we talked about a little while ago about the baseball across the river, we wanted to build a baseball stadium up against the wall right there where the Channel 6 TV station. We didn't want to move it to South Augusta. Regency Mall should have been built at Gordon Highway and Deansbury Road. That's the best location for it. We didn't want to do that. We say we want to grow. We want to grow where we want to grow at, not where the best place for the situation to be at. We want to do what we want to do. So I could be all day because there's so much that's not going right, but we got to understand what the problem is, and that is communication, talking to one another about it.
Reverend Williams.
My name is Johnny Hampton. I'm one of the local clergymen in the area. I live at 4108 Big Oak Drive, Hepzibah. I've been in Augusta 64 years, basically all my life. And what I've learned in observing the government is that in order for us to be able to achieve something, we got to be in agreement. And I think the problem with many of us is that we're trying to walk together, but we're not in agreement. And the scripture teaches us how can two walk together except they be in agreement. Any major issue that has come up before this city, for some reason we are divided as it relates to our individual interests. Until we can look at the big picture and not try to get our personal interests at the expense of others, we're gonna still be here talking about this probably when I'm dead and gone. But what I want us to understand is that, just case in point, we tore down the James Brown Arena to erect a new facility. and we can't even come together to agree on what the name of it ought to be. So that tells us that we got some internal issues that we need to solve. Personally, as citizens of this community, as elected officials that serve on the commission, as well as the mayor. Final thing I want to say is that it takes somebody to be the leader, but you put yourself in danger when you put all your eggs in one basket. So when you have one man who wields absolute power, that's corruption. That's all I need to say.
All right, thank you. Very good. I think, Mr. Hudson, you asked to speak too? Okay.
Good evening. My name is James Riles. I live 4006 Marshall Street, Augusta, Georgia. I just want to say one thing. I've been coming to a commission meeting for the last 40 years, and you asked the question, who run the commission? Who run the administrator? 6 votes run the administrator. She works for 6 votes. If she ain't got 6 votes, she ain't gonna be there. And another thing about this government, they hire department head to make recommendations for the commission, and they give the right answer for the commission. Somehow the commission go against them, and they working for them. But the commission don't have the expertise that they have, and they vote against them for their friends. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing is either you got a commission come in there, divide the commission, or you got a mayor come in there and divide them. So there you got a government running separate because you can't come together because one want to have their way. But I think the commission ought to listen to the people they got working. If the mayor come in, if he for the people, he won't have no problem. But if he come in and they got their own agenda, everybody got their own agenda when they're elected. They ain't armor no more since they got the job. They feel like it's their decision, not the commission, not the people's decision, it's their decision. That's what's wrong with the government. You know, just like y'all committed. You know what it said out in the street? That you already got a set mind. So y'all the mayor puppet. A set mind. That's what's out in the street. So y'all got
And
a
who
set
are you
mind.
hearing that from, and why did they come up with that? We are unaware of this, so please enlighten us.
That's what's in the street. That's what's in
So
the street.
somebody's saying that and planting
When they
that seed then.
say it's stacked, it's already stacked, and y'all rushing the procedure.
Who planted that seed?
That's what they saying in the street now.
Well, I understand, and I'm trying to understand that.
Procedure.
We feel like we are in concrete pedaling, trying to pedal backwards as hard as we
So
can.
y'all rushing it, so y'all want to move it on fast. We can get.
You know,
what
the
they
United
want.
States Constitution was produced in less than a year. Probably less than 7 or 8 months.
Probably ain't got more
with no
problem than we
computers. You may be right about that.
They ain't got the problem we got.
It's still the finest in the
And
world, though.
the problem we got is that people want to have their own way, and they not up there for the people, not even the mayor, not the commission. They're not for the people, they for their own agenda.
Yep, agree with
Thank
that.
you.
Citizen servant versus opportunist. That's exactly right. Ms. Robinson.
So the Constitution was done over 4 months of them meeting every single day for 6 hours a day. If you calculate that over time, based on how we are moving right now, technically it would take 3.5 years. I've done the math. So let's be genuine when we talk about this thing. As far as who planted the seed, we have talked about that in our very meetings about the very same thing. So again, let's not be disingenuous to the people. I agree with a lot of the comments that we're hearing about communication, and I think that at large is the problem we have here in Augusta. It's simple communication. how does communication get to the people? We talked about it briefly with the different methods of communication, but we also have to talk about how we reach different generations. We also have to talk about how we reach different languages, different forms of literacy, things of that nature. So what I would challenge everyone in this room to do, if you haven't filled out the survey, please, 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 please do that. Please pass it along to people so they can do it as well. Because a lot of the things that are coming up, we're hearing the same things. We know there are problems. We know there are also solutions, but we need as many people as possible to speak up about it. Come to the meetings we have on every other Thursday. Come to the subcommittee meetings as well. We want to hear the information from the people. I don't know about anybody else on this committee, but I have not been bought and sold, and I won't be. I'm born and raised here in the city of Augusta, and I want to see Augusta thrive. So at least you know you have one person on here that's not a part of the mess you're talking about. Again, I can't speak for everybody else, just speak for me. But we're here to do the business of the people, so we need to hear you. Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Can I acknowledge our other commissioners here first, because they've been patiently waiting too? And I've actually got speakers in the audience that are also waiting. We'll get to you, Reverend Booker. Mr. Pearson?
I just want to say this is a public hearing, and for those who haven't asked your questions or made your statements, please do. Feel comfortable in doing that. We need some change in this city. You know, we talk about what's being said in the street and so on and on. If I were to tell you what is being said in the street, one of the things that's being said is that by young folks that Augusta is not going to change until old folks die, you know? And that's shameful. I'm someone who's been in the community for over 40 years and fought against a little bit of everything, including separate waiting rooms. And, you know, telling my age, but that's okay. I've always been an advocate for children. Why are we so far behind the 8 ball as we compare ourselves to these other cities that's comparable in terms of population? You know, my wife is a HIV consultant. She's working at a camp this weekend in Winder, Georgia. And she called me, she said, Rod, you should see the facilities that some of these communities have, small towns. As I've said before, we've been here for 30 years, you know, and we're concerned about representation based on the color of our skin. That's shameful to me. I want representation too, to look like me, but I want something done. And for the sake of the children, it's just simply not getting done. We should be, as adults, ashamed of ourselves, whether we're silent or whether we are speaking out with no substance. I've been hearing this same talk ever since I've been here for 30 years. And I'm sick and tired of them, you know, sick and tired of them. I'm here for the children, and I'm here for the aging, so my concerns for being on this committee may be a little different than some folks. I'm not bought. I don't even agree with the educational, the requirements to become a commissioner, but I can't speak on that because people choose who they want to choose, you know. So that's basically it, but please feel free to say whatever it is you want to say. There's a lot of young folks here. And if you have something to say, young lady, young man, please say it. Speak up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Mr. Bryant.
Well, I think conspiracy theories exist everywhere. You just go to the web. There's all kind of conspiracy theories trying to disrupt or disconcern what's in front of us. I can say as a committee member, my mind is not made up, nor do I think this committee's mind is made up. If there is a hidden agenda out there, I'm not aware of any hidden agenda, nor will I participate in a hidden agenda. I'm here to listen to the facts, try to concern myself primarily what's in the best interest of Augusta, Georgia, to help us move forward, not just right now, but 15, 20, 25, 50 years from now. It disturbs me to see other metropolitan areas, Greenville, Florence, South Carolina, Rock Hill, South Carolina even, and places in this state, Birmingham, Alabama, and others, making so much progress that we seem stuck in the mud about because we won't take the time. And I believe communication is important, but along with communication, there has to be a sincere concern about somebody missing the bigger issue in front of us. And the bigger issue in front of us is about growth. We talk about the CSRA. The CSRA is growing. Aiken is growing. Columbia County is growing. Augusta is growing. So we got to be able as a community to come together and look at the big picture and what's best for this community, and not just the interests of a few, but the interests of all. So I would say for those who are listening to people in the street and everything else, is that I had a saying a long time ago. Somebody told my grandfather, so-and-so said this about you. So-and-so made this accusation about you. And I was 6 years old. And my granddaddy said, I'm not concerned about what so-and-so said. I'm concerned what you said when so-and-so said it. That's where I'm at, is that if we're in this thing together and we're about the business of this city and going forward and making it better for our kids and our kids' kids, we owe it to this. And that's why I accepted the appointment on this committee, is that if I can help serve and make a difference, I will. And I will be insulted if someone says that we are working from a hidden agenda and the die has already been cast, because there's nothing farther from the truth.
Oh, I was just going to recommend, because we are almost out of time, and there's these two, Pastor Booker and the gentleman sitting next to Miss Dallas. So, yeah, that takes up our entire 15 minutes.
We have a chair.
Ma'am?
My name is Deborah Eastup. I do what I'm just going to call bridge work in the city, so I'm used to working with individuals, and so this is a little scary for me. But I will say, as far as I texted a lot of people about what was going on tonight, and I can guarantee a lot of people cared about this, but they were working jobs, 2 jobs, they have family. There's a lot of people that want to have a say and to understand the complexity, and there's a lot of complexity in Augusta. But we simply also have a wealth gap, and we have a lot of unanswered things for day-to-day folk that are working in the city. And we have a lot of things that people are afraid to talk about, and that really blurs the dialogue. I'm not as connected to the systems just because of where I am. So I've worked with people who have been young folk recruited in as runners in our local mafia and have dealt with addiction and close to death. There's a lot of things that people can't get to as far as resources. Resource Augusta does amazing work in this city, and also vets and make sure it's up-to-date information with Angela. But I did a QR poster to hand this out directly to police officers downtown, and there was a couple that started to cry because they said this is so important, and it's not for lack of trying to have access to people. It's the information is either gatekept or it's hard to access in our very busy day-to-day lives in bite-sized pieces. And I think a big answer to that is we have to work with grassroots citizens who are willing and ready to work with the city. However, there's so many, no one to ask permissions. There's a lot of things in the way that I don't feel like there's that synergy. And yet you have this untapped resource of people who want to help. There was, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, there was Nazi graffiti under a train trestle that was right near a kids' park. And I had tried to get people from the city. We did staged call-ins to 311 to keep reporting it. And then 2 weeks later, we went in and did it. And, I was told by someone that the best way to get 311 to respond to the engineering department, specifically I was running into issues with, is to tell them you're going to do it yourself, because that causes them a legal issue. So at this point, I'm very ingrained in the community, but I don't work with larger systems because, frankly, a lot of our young folk don't trust larger systems, because when they need answers quickly, when they're students and they don't know what to do, they're not getting those answers. But it's not that they don't care, it's that the systems don't always make sense. And when they're already dealing with so many other issues that have come up in this country, you have to show them, not tell them. You can't just show up when you want them to vote. You have to show up when they need answers, when they need support that's outside of politics. And we saw that during the hurricane. There was no fighting, for the most part, except for a couple organized people coming in to take generators, which does happen throughout history. We had people come together, help their neighbors, come out with chainsaws. We had civil servants and tree workers coming out and working overtime to do this. So I think we've seen, if we take our job seriously, people want to work with you. But I do think we need to think about, what is standing in our way? How can we work together? We want to.
Thank you. And stay in touch with Angela, because we get her ideas. She does a good job with that. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Eric Gaines, and I reside at 1445 Railroad Street. And so I want to come before you all because I am one of those young folks here. Grandparents used to stay here for many years, and as a kid, I remember how downtown Augusta used to look. And so part of that is I've gotten to a certain point in life that I've decided to come in and put my own resources back into the downtown community, more specifically a street that has been surrounded behind a dumping ground. And so what I have noticed since being here is I've had somewhat of an uphill battle. I've had several commissioners that were very helpful and instrumental with getting me to trying to get to a certain point. But what I've noticed is that we don't have certain funds allocated to the downtown area, most specifically the District 2 area. And so when we talk about wanting to revitalize a community and stuff, we can't do that, and we can't also depend on independent investors like myself. I'm coming in and doing my own project out of my pocket. We can't depend on and think that other independent investors are going to come in and be able to do things if we don't have the money allocated for the infrastructure. And so I've had a really crazy amount of loops that I've had to really go through to try to get a little bit of work done on the particular street that I'm talking about, Railroad Street. But in specific to the actual charter that you guys are actually working on, one of the things that I have noticed as I've come to several commission meetings is that you have individuals that are elected to this body and they don't show up to the meetings. It's not just one meeting, it's multiple meetings. And so how is it that you can be representing your district appropriately if you're not coming to the meetings? Now, I understand that the commissioners have other jobs that they have to fulfill, and that's not their full-time job. But really, if you're going to sit up here as a commissioner, why aren't you coming to the meetings? They put motions on the floor, and some of the motions don't even carry because you don't have a full body of folks that are here. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have a quorum when they have their bodies here, but I've seen certain commissioners that have missed multiple meetings over and over again, and we've got to get back to the business of the people, and that's what the body is and should be. So I'm with many of you all in terms of making sure that we have that agreement there, but that is one of the biggest things. And so I don't know if you can put in your commission, in the charter, that you have to attend so many meetings if you're going to be a commissioner. I just think that that's just part of your duty as a commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it is on the list. Mr. Hudson, would you join us?
Madam Chair, I just want to tell that young man, thank you for coming, and also thank you for bringing your children. Yep. Sir, thank you for bringing your children. All right?
They were here earlier, too. They sure were.
Mr. Pearson, I'm David Hudson. I live at 4 Highgate Circle out there at First Baptist Church. You were talking, we may not be able to change for the better until a lot of the old people are gone. I'm sort of getting there. I'll be close to 80 before long. I started working on the consolidated government project in 1989. I went back to my office and looked in a box, and I had all of these charts and workups in '89, and many of the people that we were working with are gone on by now. And we worked one Thanksgiving morning with a charter committee like this. White folks, black folks, white and black. Thanksgiving morning we worked. And we got about 3 different bills up before the General Assembly that passed. One time the city passed, the county didn't. Next time the county did and the city didn't, so they failed. Then we got them all passed together. And the Justice Department said, no, it was not fair to whites and blacks. Then we had to do it again. So I guess it was all about 6 or 7 years that we did this to try to finally get one passed that the government would permit it to be a consolidated government. What I would do now with that experience, if I was sitting on this committee, I would get the Vinson Committee to come and sit with us and tell us what they have seen that has worked the best. Has it been the one in Athens? Something good there, not good here? Has it been something good in Augusta and not good in Macon? Has it something good in Columbus? I would draw on their expertise. Oh, and not only their expertise here in Georgia where we've had consolidated government, these folks, this has been their lifetime work. Get them to tell us what they've seen work well in other places. We've talked about in South Carolina, but I would listen to these experts. We got a lot of experts here, but I don't think they're the real ones that have made it their life's work. And I would ask the Vinson Committee to tell us what they think will work the best. And then you take that and use your own expertise, your own experience here in Augusta. Some have been in education, some have been in medicine. We've heard people who are involved in the church, and other private business. But let these experts tell us what they think will work the best, and we work on that with our own experience, then come up with something that's really going to be good for us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Come on down.
My name is Ryan Borders. I live at 419 2nd Street. I'm one of the leaders of the Old Town Neighborhood Association. I lived in Aiken, South Carolina. I've lived in North Augusta. I also lived in Greenville, South Carolina for 6 years, so I've experienced different governments. Some of the things I've just noticed from those governments is having the proper form of government with like a manager running it seems to be more effective. I will comment on the former commissioner's comment about if the grass is not cut or the roads are not in good shape. I would ask the question, is it really an effective form of government if we can't fix those basic things that should be a very easy tee-up for a local government? And so I thank you for the work you're doing. I think this is necessary, where I would say I'm more in favor of commission leaning more on policy and voting on policy and letting the city manager and departments do their job to be more effective. I just don't see it being as efficient, just from my observation over the years, at its current form. And one other argument, and I'm not necessarily in favor of a stronger mayor, is if someone isn't doing a good job, then the voters vote them out. And there is an argument there that they don't just have unlimited power, they have terms. And if you do not do a good job, the voters vote you out. And the same goes for the commissioners as well. But at its current form, it just seems people not showing up to vote, like what we just talked about. Things just do not move, and we're watching other areas continue to grow, and there's just a lot of potential. And so that's my only comment.
Thank you for that. Mr. Sasser.
I will not take 3 minutes. Thank you very much to all 11 of you for serving on this committee and serving our community. I've heard some very inspirational words coming from the dais today, and I thank you all for those. my question is, how long will this survey be up and active? That's the first question. And then.
July 21st, or July 31st.
Okay, so it's
So
moving
another
quick. So
3
we need to
weeks.
really push the community to get that input in then.
Yes.
Okay, that's very, and then will the survey results be available for us all to see them?
They will. My understanding is that Carl Vinson is going to package them all. They're being aggregated here in our IT department. They will go from our IT department to Carl Vinson. They will, with staff input, analyze it all, and then it'll be presented in a public meeting and likely posted right onto the website as well.
Great. Accountability is huge. I can't imagine having 11 bosses. We talked about meetings where nothing gets done. Back in my corporate America days, I would have my team come together, and before we went into the meeting, I had one of the staff remove all the chairs. We're going to stand up and we're going to get business done before we leave here. And don't sit down and get comfortable. Don't open up your soda and your snacks and all this kind of stuff and spread out. We're here. We got an agenda. Stay to the agenda and get the work done. So I would hope all of our elected officials, and I noticed a few of them in the room today, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for listening to your community. Thank you for these gentlemen that have served in the past. I've worked with all of them, and I think to good results. So I would like to ask, what is the end goal of the Charter Committee? How does this end? Will it be a referendum vote for the community, or whoever can opine on that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our charge, as we understand it, is we are to produce, with a fair amount of community input, a document that represents the best impulses of this committee, along with heavy involvement from Carl Vinson. That goes directly from this committee to our state legislative delegation and the legislature in Atlanta. They can do all kinds of surgery and make many changes. Whatever they produce and send back is what will come back to Richmond County, and there will be a referendum on that document. So in the beginning, I think we all thought we were going to be here till about March, maybe a little longer. Does that answer the question, Randy? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ellie Benson. I live on Battle Row. I want to respond to some things that some people had said. And they had said that, there's this impression of what's going on or, here. I would say that, is it wrong that my impression is that this should be a neutral committee? That everything that we're hearing should sound neutral? So I would just think that be an encouragement in committee meetings from now when you're doing hearings, that everything that's coming from you, like there's some conjecture that's happening that I feel like shouldn't be. So that's my, as a citizen, I'm asking that everything that comes to us is neutral.
Sure. Can you elaborate about what you mean by that?
For instance, some of the things that you said were conjecture and not like neutral or based in fact. So I would just, as a citizen, like to see that from now on.
All right. That only to a point will that work though, because in order for this committee to do its work.
Yes, but not, this is for listening, right? For this. Like, yes. You'll have your recommendations.
It's an exchange of
citizens.
information.
Yeah.
But mostly listening, yes.
So as long as it's facts and something factual, or like a presentation that is presenting the facts, I think that's what we're expecting. That's my expectation as a citizen. I don't know, everybody else might have different expectations, but thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just two things. Our sheriff made note of Atlanta, former commissioner noted 25. Carl Vinson shook their head and said, no, there isn't. Atlanta has two governments, as city and county. City is 16, county is 7, so that's 22 persons totally. Secondly, I want to piggyback the young lady that just came before us and say that we as citizens of Augusta, before we stand and make comments that the city commission and mayor can't get anything done, we actually need to go on and look. If you notice very closely, they get probably about 95% of their items passed all the time. So our city is not broken from that standpoint. They get nothing done. You probably can name 2 or 3 items over the last couple of years that they got deadlock on. So the city government is not broke. That is a false narrative that even mayors, again, have come and shared with us. But then when we point out to them as pastors who are engaged in politics, who encourage their members to go and vote, who do, I stand from the pulpit and tell folk who I want my members to vote for, amen. So we are very much engaged. So you and I cannot leave at any time and say that the city is broke because they do pass 95% of their items. If it was less than 50%, yes, we are broke. But we are not a broken government. Each of us need to go back and do our homework as committed persons and citizens to leave here tonight to know that the city government is not a broken government. That's the false narrative that's being pushed.
All right. Anybody else got comments? Because we're about to shut down if we are not. If you all would not mind, those of you that would like to stay in touch, the folks from Old Town, we're neighbors, close neighbors. If you would please come take the sheets. It's also on the CRC website. No question is too small. If you have a thought at 3:30 a.m., write it down, and please maybe wait till like 7 would be good for whoever you're calling.
Chef is looking late.
Yep. Don't call Miss Robinson before 8:30 or 9. How about that?
Business hours.
Business hours. That's right. That's right.
My text is around 2 a.m.
I have noticed. I have noticed that.
And I'm not drinking.
And you are almost always up at 4:30 because that's when you do your best writing. I wanted to just say the final thing, and this is a little dorky, but I don't think anybody on this committee would disagree with this. We all were a little blown away by the scope and size of this task. It is a huge task. And I would like to respectfully request, if you are a praying person, if you are a minister, you need to pray for this group for wisdom, thank you. Thank you for that. And we very much would appreciate that from all of you. Other than that, we will look forward to seeing you all at future meetings and public hearings. Thank you for coming out and making the effort to be good citizens tonight.
So if you got to put me in the job, state law say you can just say I'm going in that direction and come ahead.